Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Level 1 News. It's Turkey Week here in the U.S. And are we doing a live episode this week?
Monday.
Next week. Next week's
news
will be live.
Well, this will be on Tuesday.
For the whole week. Yeah.
They can't get it wrong with Monday.
It's confusing because we're recording ahead of time.
Because it's, the Thanksgiving holiday. The holiday that celebrates family dysfunction here in America.
Looking forward to that.
You guys driving home?
It feels like an obligation at this point, right?
I must return to the source, but Mom lives here now, so.
Oh, well, that makes it a little easier, right? Or do you have extended family you go see?
No, I have to go purge.
Oh. I have to drive to opposite ends of the state for my husband's family and mine, which is not fun.
Why do we do this?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, I like seeing the family. I just hate driving.
Well, you know who doesn't have to deal with that? The people that live in space. They got the perfect excuse, right? Oh, look, God, I'd love to make it this year. That cranberry sauce, it's amazing, but
I'm in orbit. Sorry.
Just can't do it. So, in 2024, you might think to yourself, I'm going to strive to be one of those people. I'm not just going to live in space. I'm going to be a moon colonist. Well, hang on.
NASA's moon landing will likely be delayed by several years beyond 2024, auditors say. So, much of government, contractor nuts and bolts types were looking around and saying, we don't have any of the stuff that we need to get to and stay on the moon.
Including the Starship. Now, you might be thinking, why did you start with the space story? And it's because I didn't click on the first tab. Do we start that over or we'll just roll with it?
Let's just roll with it.
It's
funnier.
So
I can give you the transition, which is also, if you want to avoid responsibility, just say you're working on your Devember project and the prize is really important to you, because we've got that going on as well. This week would be a great week to really knock out some Devember stuff. Also,
Minecraft server, if you're feeling less productive, but more, I just want to play a game with friends.
You can play Minecraft on a potato.
Very dramatic, friends. How is that a transition? That has nothing to do with this.
Come be a child with us at forum.level1text.com. In related news,
I think it's better to maybe give a little bit of backstory here. So we learned from some leaked documents, actually I think they were court discoveries, right?
Yeah.
That Facebook is actively targeting. They know that Facebook is dead. That's why they transitioned to Meta. They know that the only way Meta can survive is to capture the youth. And yet, they've been taking a lot of flack about how they affect the youth.
What's funny about that? Well, states are investigating how Instagram recruits and affects children. So these documents inside Facebook were like talking about targeting children. And then there was one email that was like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be discussing this over email.
Well, there's a lot of attorneys general who have read that and smelled blood and or money in the water, and they're coming for them. And what defense do they have?
It affects them
poorly. We were just talking about it. We weren't actually going to do it.
Here is, get ready for this one. You might want to sit down. Truth from a central banker. How did we ever get here?
Well, it's only being covered by Cleveland business.
That's the paywall alternative. Yeah. Bloomberg had it.
Bank-only stablecoins limit innovation, officials says at the Cleveland Fed conference. This is actually somebody inside the Fed. He was quickly whisked away and never to be heard from again.
His feet are being beaten with bamboo poles right now at the bottom of the Fed. So he makes some great points about how, hey, if we give the banks control of all the stablecoins, isn't that just going to be more of the same? Probably would. And once in a while, the U.S. government does manage to catch somebody who is scamming. And when they get a hold of crypto, it's kind of nice because usually, in the meantime, it's gotten a lot more valuable.
U.S. government seizes $56 million in crypto from BitConnect's quote-unquote #1 promoter. Now, BitConnect was a scam. Absolutely 100% scam. It was touted as though it was an algorithmic trading platform to automatically trade in the various different cryptos. And so you could buy into this fund like an index fund, but it was actually a Ponzi scheme.
That $56 million, when he made it by scamming, was worth $24 million. What an emotional roller coaster.
Well, the scam, though, was worth $2 billion, so this seems like pennies.
Well, that was just his part of it.
Yeah.
They didn't get the scammers. They just got one guy who was hyping it really bad. It was a Ponzi scheme, so you had to constantly bring new people in. And it seemed like they may have like red-pilled him at some point and be like, listen, you're really good at this. Here's your cut.
This is just MLMs for crypto bros.
That's exactly that, yeah.
Hey, if he avoids jail time, then okay, I guess whatever.
You think he gave him all of it? I don't think so. There's something squirreled away somewhere, right? And BlockFi has offered high-yield crypto accounts. It is probably a little risky. It's certainly not FDIC insured, and maybe illegal.
BlockFi is in the SEC crosshairs for high-yield crypto accounts. Now, I did some digging, and it seems the SEC is interested in this because of its 9.5% return rate, which doesn't seem super outrageous. But when you ask the SEC, what's your evidence of wrongdoing here, they say 9.5% return rate, which is all they have right now.
10% without doing anything is unheard of.
Yeah. Unless you're like a billionaire.
But there is a massive amount of risk there. I think those accounts do contain risk, right?
Yeah.
So you could definitely make 10% taking that kind of risk somewhere else. Maybe they don't state that enough. That could be part of the complaint. And part of that moon landing that's not going to happen is the Starship. If the Starship doesn't go, the moon landing doesn't go. So this is maybe some good news.
Elon Musk says SpaceX will, quote unquote, hopefully launch the first orbital Starship flight in January. Let's get out our Elon Musk translator. Full self-driving, definitely coming.
Yeah, anything I hear from him, like unless it was the engineers at SpaceX, I'm like, I'm going to take this with a giant grain of salt.
Autonomous moon taxi by 2025.
There's some engineer who's screaming, no! They're like watching their TV.
It's one of those high-pitched screams you can hear across the cube farm. It's like you just enter the entrance and you can hear a distant as they read the headline.
You know what's going to be hilarious is, when we're old and we get to watch Musk slip into dementia with all that money.
It's not fun to watch for anybody, but especially not for someone with that much money.
Like you said, Musk has made some promises about full self-driving. They haven't come to pass. Somehow the defenders still have blinders on about that. How many years has it been now?
It's been a while.
But the other people who have failed at that have not actually put their cars on the road. That's the difference.
Apple accelerates work on its car project aiming for a fully autonomous vehicle. But wait, you say, didn't they sell off all of their people that were working on that? This is an entirely new set of people.
That seems like a healthy work environment, right?
Well, it does seem like the whole project is kind of, like falling apart. They did have two branches. One was the self-driving and one was just kind of like a Tesla, right? Like a semi-self-driving, and they decided there's no future in that.
Oh, also, I meant to let you guys know, every time we have, a broken Elon Musk promise come up, we shouldn't immediately go to full self-driving. We should immediately go to, he's going to single-handedly pay for clean drinking water for Flint, Michigan. He also promised that, but everybody forgot about that one.
Oh, wow.
When did he promise that?
2018.
But man, he got his name in the headlines for a few days, which is probably the real goal.
Yeah, it was like, if they don't fix that, I'm going to come in and single-handedly make sure everybody's got potable water to the national standards. That was 2018.
talks to his engineers, and they're like, we work on space rockets. We don't handle water purification. So you're saying he didn't give a date? Could still do it, right? Well, Apple is getting into the identification card business, spurred by the vaccine stuff, most likely, I would say.
We covered this like 2 or 3 months ago, and it was like, how are they going to do it?
Yeah, well, turns out they had a good plan. It doesn't involve working around it with technology. It involves greasing some pockets, most likely.
Apple is sticking taxpayers with part of the bill for rollout of tech giant's digital ID card. So this is really awesome, but also insidious. They've gone to your local DMV and they've said, this is the technology that we're using. This is how it works. You either get on board or we just don't work with you. So if you want to use Apple's digital ID, they're basically setting the rules and setting the standards and setting the technology. Now, Apple has a lot of control from like a managerial standpoint, but they're not actually picking like the DMV photography equipment or anything like that. They're just making sure that it works and is compatible with all of their stuff. So on the one hand, I think about the dysfunction inside your typical, local and regional government office. But on the other hand, I think about Apple, and it's like, ugh.
Remember
Which do I hate more?
back during the pandemic days, and I suffered from this because I switched my address, then I tried to buy a gun, and they were like, nope, you can't do it. So I was like, all right, let me run to the DMV.
Nope.
There's no such thing.
It was down for 3 days. You think that's not going to happen with Apple technology? I mean, come on.
Yeah. It's horrifying. Everything is terrible. Why?
And the people who have read the contract and, talked about it anonymously because they know what will happen if Apple finds out, they brought up the term that comes up over and over and over in this contract, and it is sole discretion. Apple will have sole discretion on so many things, including the release date.
Yeah.
So the state's like, if they want to roll this out, nope, you need Apple's permission.
Tim Cook has to come, and you have to personally wash his feet in order for the blessing to... It's just a thing. Don't make it a thing. It's weird.
And, of course, we see a lot of paywalls when we look at this stuff because I refuse to pay for any of it. And if you do pay for it, unfortunately, they have this nasty little thing that they do to try to hang on to you because those subscribers are everything in their world. The FTC and Lady Rosenworcel
I saw that. Her tweets about this were amazing.
has stepped up.
The end of click to subscribe, call to cancel, one of the new news industry's favorite retention tactics, is illegal, the FTC says. So yes, Miss Lena Khan has said, hey, if you make people call to cancel but you can sign up online, that is not legal. You should be able to cancel online just as easily as you sign up online. If you make people call to sign up and you make people call to cancel, that's also fine, but it can't be easy to sign up and hard to cancel.
I said Rosenworcel, that's FCC. This one, it blew my mind. I was like, how can this possibly work? But according to the study, now the study was pretty small.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of this is actually real, but it's that whole placebo thing. Like, if it works, why not, right?
VR treatment for chronic pain gets FDA authorization. Once again, Gabe Newell predicting the future. I'm, of course, thinking of the Meet the Pyro video.
This is not quite that. It doesn't overlay happiness onto the world. What it does is it tries to, it amplifies your breathing into your ears and then forces you to try and focus on that, to do like the breath meditation type of thing. And I think there's more to it, like walking you through it, maybe doing some visual stuff. But I think it was like 40% said that they had 3 months of lower pain.
Huh.
Or no, they had 3 months of 41% lower pain.
I could see, I don't understand how the chronic pain stuff works, but I could see it being helpful, like for seasonal depression. Like when we got that VR headset and got to try it out, like the first room you go into when you start it up was like a room with like nature and trees, and I was like, oh, I could see this being cheerful when it's cold and dark outside.
I thought the ping pong game was really nice because you were playing ping pong in these amazing houses looking over natural scenery and stuff.
Yeah, so I could see it being good for that. I don't know if that would help chronic pain, but maybe.
Well, according to these guys, and it was people who had ongoing pain for like 6 months. So presumably it was people who were familiar with pain.
Yeah.
And I expect they were honest about it because why would you lie about that, right? Doesn't that just mean like, okay, we're going to give you less pills?
Yeah, exactly.
There's probably something to that. I mean, when I was working on the house, I hurt my shoulder, and I hurt it so bad that I could hear my shoulder moving. Like I would move my shoulder and it would hurt, but I could also hear it. And it made this thing where, like, I think when I heard it, I was expecting the pain, and it was sort of crazy. And that was one of the only times where playing music or something in the background while I was working on the garage actually helped, because I couldn't hear my shoulder anymore. So maybe something like that.
It's like turning up the car stereo when the engine starts making a noise. It's not recommended. I'm with you, though. I wouldn't have gone to a hospital for that.
No.
These days, no way.
I know. I don't have enough Bitcoin for that.
Well, Nvidia, man, the headlines just keep coming. It is bad news, although they did get some good news we'll talk about in the business section this week. The UK continues to be a thorn in their paw.
Nvidia and that ARM deal, that might not go through after all. I'm paraphrasing the Bloomberg headline, of course, but there's a lot of coverage of this in business circles. They're making a really big deal out of this in the business the business trade rags and stuff. But the actual regulatory thing here, I don't think the UK government closed the door on this completely. They're just asking for their grift.
Well, it's another part of the government.
Yeah.
Another hand in that pocket. And boy, is it crowded in there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all sweaty and slimy in there.
Everyone's fingers are groping around on each
Yeah.
other.
It's like, I'm not trying to hold your hand, other regulatory agency. I'm just trying to find some money.
And they're like, that's not my hand. If you'll recall, back when we first started to get a taste of this bulk data collection stuff, when like the Patriot Act and all that, one of the nasty tricks they pulled here in the U.S. was like, oh, hey, we're not capturing your data. Now, we might be sending it to Germany, who might be capturing it, who might be sharing it with us. But that's totally different. And Germany has...
That sounds like the same thing with more steps.
No, totally different. And Germany has always had... their policy on data collection has always been pretty severe. Like, we want it all. We're going to take it all. But Germany is a member of the EU.
Advisor to EU's top court suggests that the German bulk data collection retention law isn't legal. It's like, you have to save all this data, but keep it private. But you have to save it. But you also have to keep it private. But you also have to save it. And it's like, wouldn't deleting it be the ultimate form of privacy? No. No.
Gotta have it. Do you know that the EU is planning to have a military? That sounds like a bad idea.
That sounds amazing. What are you talking about?
That makes me want to garden harder.
Well, France is perhaps taking a different approach, although I don't think this is indicative of the entire French government. I think this is probably one voice, but it is a voice that we should listen to.
The French government to speed up deployment of open source. Long story short, the French government is looking at, the various industries, and they're saying, we're buying a lot of software that's the same software over and over again. The software isn't particularly innovative. Why don't we just fund the open source version to get some of the features that we need? And then we have it forever.
Or just build it all ourselves.
Or just build it all ourselves.
I mean, look, open source, money goes a long way in open source.
It does.
Yeah, so they could easily fund that. They got that. Wasn't it Germany?
Yes.
Who switched all of their Microsoft products in the government to Linux and OpenOffice and stuff like that, and that worked wonderfully.
Munich.
And then the government switched, and they immediately brought Microsoft in.
Yes. There was a change of the parties, and that's sort of been weird because switching actually did raise the state of the art for open source, but then they still wanted to switch back to Microsoft and some other stuff. But it's just a question of effectively spending dollars in the right spots to solve problems.
Well, I think the switch back to Microsoft was somebody getting their pockets lined.
Well, they didn't switch completely because it turns out that both of those systems have a lot of inertia behind them, and so it's like you can't just throw a switch and do one or the other.
So then you could be miserable in two different ways.
Yeah.
Great. Well, supercomputers, we have a list of them. Every year we rank them around this time, and this year's list is interesting because everybody kind of knows, but it's an open secret that number one is not on the list.
Yeah. Fugaku remains the world's fastest supercomputer on the top 500 behind secret Chinese exascale systems. So this article says that the Chinese government has two probably supercomputers that exceed 1,000 teraflops. So this one, Fugaku, is 442 teraflops. And then down the list, it trails off pretty quickly. It's not a tight race. It's, some of the other top 500 supercomputers are on the order of 10 teraflops.
Nvidia,
what a wonderful word.
I'm sorry, petaflops. Yeah, everybody's got teraflops these days. I was like, that doesn't seem like much compute. Petaflops, my bad.
Nvidia's got one. Microsoft's got one that's all in the Azure cloud. It's not great, but it's in the top 10.
It's in the U.S. East region, and they won't say who the customer is, which probably means it's the government.
So when China isn't working on their supercomputers, they're doing a lot of secretive, meetings in the government. Oh man, I lost all the nonsense stories this week. Did the tennis player story make it in?
It's not ringing a
I
bell.
don't know.
We got to talk about the tennis player story.
We got screwed by our project management software.
Oh God, I hate it. But anyway, China. It's funny because now China is like, oh, you're going to pull out our equipment from your network? Well, guess what? We can do the same thing.
A secretive Chinese committee has drawn up a list of U.S. equipment to remove from their networks. Honestly, this is probably a little overdue. After the whole Juniper thing.
Let me say that. So, again, our software completely betrayed me this week. I was looking for paywall alternatives to this. I found an update where China has denied it officially.
Okay.
Yeah, but like Cisco, their time in international markets, like their days have to be numbered. Between some of the screw ups that they've had and hard coded backdoor passwords, and like Juniper, even if that was just blinding incompetence, it's not gonna. Come on.
It's a big market, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to affect some bottom lines if it's true.
There's probably a lot of people like me, though, that are sitting there and they're like, I can totally buy those discount Hikvision cameras and just take steps to make sure that they're sandboxed properly, and then it doesn't matter that they're backdoored.
Yeah, until you get a knock on your door and there's a Fed and he's like, we saw some eBay purchases here we don't like. The other thing that China is taking a really harsh stance on is cryptocurrency.
Before the bell, Bitcoin falls as China takes aim once again at the quote-unquote extremely harmful crypto mining.
They don't like it at all.
It's just moving somewhere else. It's fine.
Well, but they say apparently a lot of it is still there, just kind of under the radar. And they subsidize electricity for schools and, other public interest. And they suspect that there's some mining rigs hidden away in a lot of those buildings.
Didn't we do a story about that? I can't remember if it was in China or not, where like a guy had a huge setup for it.
That was an American social worker.
Oh, okay.
He was the IT guy.
Yeah. He hid some of the rigs in floorboards.
Why is it so warm in here?
We've got heated floors. That's right, you do. Even in summer.
And the whole, America-China thing, it's only going to get worse, and it's getting really, really warm, if not starting on the lower portions of hot there. And when that's the case, you have to really be careful if you're a business that plays both sides.
White House spurns Intel plan to expand chip production in China. So Intel said, yeah, we've got a lot of demand in the China region. Let's expand production there. And the State Department said, not so fast.
The State Department said, oh, you know that Build Back Better money that we're going to give you? Guess why we might not give it to you?
Well, this is only fair because remember AMD was working with somebody in China, and that was Zen 1, and the State Department freaked out about that after AMD got the okay. Like AMD got the okay from the State Department, and they were like, we never said that. It's like, no, you totally did. Here's all the paperwork. And they're like, well, we changed our mind.
So your justification for this ranks AMD shilling above national security. Basically is what you're saying.
No, I was saying if it went the other way, it was like, come on, at least be consistent. Because
they've never been consistent. Portugal, and reclaimyourface.eu might not be a news site that we're used to, but again, this was on Bloomberg or someplace else, and it was paywalled. So this is what we get.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy is like, finally, a website for me.
Well, that would be terrible for him. He would be the only man getting requests. But Portugal, they have tried something nasty, and I find these guys pretty easy to believe. They seem to have some pretty good sources here.
Yeah. Proposed law to sneak in biometric mass surveillance in Portugal. Face recognition and like having all of the data points in the 3D map of your face so that can be used to identify you.
They just had that wonderful law about not being able to be contacted after hours, and they're like, let's sneak this in too.
Yeah. And this is, I think it's part of the national ID, right? So you can't really dodge it. Pretty nasty. I would like to reclaim my face, but I don't know how. Are we already into AI? We are.
Wow.
Robot, AI, and space. That's the topic. So GPT-3 is really amazing. It's incredible what it can do. It does do some weird stuff every once in a while, but they're getting better at it. The more people that use it, the better it gets, and there's some great news about that.
OpenAI's GPT-3 gets a little bit more open. If you want to experience this directly, you should go play AI Dungeon. That's probably the best way to experience this. But GPT-3 is only used at the higher paid tier of AI Dungeon.
I think they might have changed that now.
And if it's still player generated, it wants to go to porn really fast. You got to stop it from doing that.
They've really tried to get around that because there was underage type scenarios going on.
Just fanfiction.net, but with bots.
But it's doing that because it's getting trained off of literature and other people.
Yeah.
So obviously other people are immediately going to. We should revisit that sometime because they have made some changes.
That would be fun.
Check it out.
We will not be streaming on Friday, from what I understand, probably.
Yeah.
Next Friday, you mean?
Next
Well,
Friday.
it'll be Friday for them when they're watching this
Yeah.
All right.
because Thanksgiving.
I might do something.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I'm probably at like 60% saturation on House Flipper.
Oh, see, I haven't downloaded it yet, so I'll probably if we want to play that tonight.
Are you going to do that tonight?
I might, yeah.
The first time is pretty magical, and it does wear a little bit after that. I'm intensely disappointed you can't put windows on internal walls. So I was going to do one bathroom with a window into another bathroom. You can't do that.
Oh. I realized when I sent you that floor plan that I put two bathrooms. I put two bedrooms.
That seems
You
very-
also lined up the external doors, and that doesn't fit the reality.
Oh. I was trying to look at the little mini map when we were streaming it and trying to figure out where the doors and stuff were, but I couldn't tell easily.
Although I guess we could.
I mean, you could move them.
You can't knock down external walls, which is another huge disadvantage. You know what? This is not the House Flipper stream. This
No.
is the news.
But
So let's talk about Discord. I remember there for a while I was messing around with the Discord bots a little bit because I wanted a soundboard bot in Discord. Nobody had done that yet. I'm sure they have by now.
Yeah.
But they do have a lot of them.
Discord is quietly building an app empire of bots. So this is kind of like Slack Lite because everybody wants everything to go into Slack. It's like, oh, the build is complete. Slack. Somebody sent us an angry email. Slack. Discord is like that, but they just want integrations with other stuff. And also to be able to tell the bot to go do something so that you never really have to leave Discord.
we have one in ours, like the one that I play with my friends on, that plays music, but we constantly have to switch it. Because YouTube, it plays music from YouTube, and YouTube eventually catches on to that, and then it deletes the bot.
Yeah, they took both of those bots out. I'd say this is only going to get worse. They're probably going
Yeah.
to get bound out, right?
It's a constant cat and mouse game of changing the bot so we can play music.
I guess you can't, Spotify doesn't give you an API, right? That'd be cool.
Even some of those bots that Chris is talking about literally just embed the video. It doesn't do anything more complicated than just embed the video so that you can play it from the stream. And that's apparently not okay.
Well, it's probably not YouTube that's upset about that. It's the copyright
Yeah, it's the
holders.
copyright people.
Which seems crazy because it's like YouTube is okay, but not YouTube embedded.
Because you can run ads on YouTube.
We could run
Yeah.
ad embedded too.
Oh, yeah, but then they can't see it.
Well,
I don't know. We know one thing about AI, and that is it is super, super racist. And nobody really knows what to do about it.
New York City passed a bill requiring bias audits of AI hiring tech. Okay.
So all these companies,
More bureaucracy. Yay.
it is a horrible reality that the first phase of hiring, you have to get past a robot before anybody will even look at you.
Well, look at it this way. As soon as this actually takes effect in law, if you don't get a job somewhere, you can request an audit probably and just make an insane amount of money because nobody will have anything that's even remotely compliant or have been audited.
That's a difficult thing to explain to older parents when they're talking about jobs and stuff, and it's no, you don't just walk up to someone. You have to go through the round of bots first.
I applied for a job and then I got $1 million settlement.
Maybe that's the path we need to send Nubbin on.
Oh.
You know what? Actually, the AIs probably are discriminating against him massively.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are. They
Yeah.
absolutely are.
That's funny. But because no one will ever champion Nubbin. He's the wrong demographic. Well, when it comes to supercomputers, yeah, maybe China's got the best one. But how about a supercomputer that's custom built for artificial intelligence?
Cerebras Systems raises another $250 million for the fastest AI processor on Earth. This is the whole wafer company. So they use the whole wafer at once. They don't even have to bother slicing up a wafer. They just basically dip the wafer in liquid cooling, wire it up, and you're good to go. The entire wafer is AI modules. And if one of them is weird or malfunctioning, you just don't use that one.
Trillions of transistors.
It's amazing.
If you get a bad fab on one of those, that's a sad time. It's a big loss. Jeff Bezos is, I think his popularity is definitely waning, wouldn't you say?
I think so.
I don't know that he was ever popular, but at least he flew under the radar before.
Yes, but considerably less than it was at its best.
Yeah.
Would we say that?
Yeah, that's true.
When people were just ambivalent about Jeff Bezos, now it's outright hatred. And I think these kinds of comments are not going to help.
Jeff Bezos, future humans will visit the Earth the way that you currently visit Yellowstone. The future of the Earth becoming a national park that humans visit for the weekend while spending most of their lives in space.
That seems like property rights would have to be destroyed in order to accomplish that.
Sometimes I read these kind of headlines and like he says stuff like this. I'm like, why didn't someone just kill him? I mean, I'm not saying that seriously,
We're
but
not
like,
advocating.
but I'm like, surely you know that someone's going to be angry about that. Like,
well, I mean, let's imagine a future where that's plausible. Like the human population in our solar system is on the order of what, like 140, 150 billion. There's just not enough room. But you know, the actual planet Earth would not at all be like Yellowstone in that. It would be even worse than it is now in terms of population and lack of biodiversity and everything else.
Where are you getting those population numbers?
I'm just saying that, like, for that to even be remotely possible, that's how many human beings would have to support that kind of exist. You're not going to have most of humanity living in space if there's only 1 million people total in the entire solar system, with most of those living in space.
Seems like the water would be an issue.
there's a lot of problems with living in space.
I guess ice asteroids, is that what we're counting on?
And just insanely high technology, and yeah.
Oh, gonna be drinking our own urine, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's what it all comes down to.
It really is.
Wow.
You know, the lowest cost thing would be for all to just put our brains in a jar and then have that be underground somewhere. That would be the least ecologically damaging. And
But who stays awake to maintain that?
The robots.
Yeah, we can't trust them.
I don't think he's thinking about ecologically preserving anything. I think he's just thinking like, what if I could charge people for the air they breathe?
Well,
It's a dream for him.
You know, in his mind, that wherever they're living in space is Amazon owned.
Yeah.
And he's collecting that rent.
Yeah.
you know, speaking of, like, even if we have that level of technology, why wouldn't we be terraforming every single planet in the solar system? Nobody wants to maintain Venus as a nature preserve. Let's go get some, you know, continents on that and some water, and you know, let's make it nice, make it habitable. Do the same thing with Mars.
He can't even get my packages to me in 2 days. You really think he's going to be able to do that?
Well, I mean, if most people are living in space, he's going to need that level of technology anyway. Unless most of the people are gone.
Oh, that might be the real
Yeah.
goal there. There ain't going to be billions. They're going to be like 100 million in a ring around the earth paying taxes.
We would be hard pressed with only 100 million people on Earth, assuming that everybody was like, you know, really high. We would be very hard pressed to maintain the level of technology that we have now in terms of just like photolithography for silicon. It's an ungodly number of people in all the industries that prop up all those other industries.
So let it slow down. That's fine. And an exciting time on the International Space Station, but probably not the kind of time that you would enjoy if you were living up there,
Ooh.
because there was a bit of space debris. And when I say a bit, I mean a ton.
Russia may have just shot down its own satellite, creating a huge debris cloud. Now, we covered this last week, but there's an update.
I think Russia kind of admitted it, right?
They did.
Oops.
They were denying it last week. This week they said, yes, this was weapons practice. Oopsie.
So the alarm goes off. You scramble. You have to go to the pod, because if there is a catastrophic failure, the pods will just yeet you back to Earth and hopefully save your life. Unless, of course, one of those debris hits the pod. Then you're in trouble. But then, after everything's like, okay, we didn't hit anything, go back to your stations. Every orbit, you got to be on alert again.
Yeah.
Because you're going back through the cloud. So that sucks. And everybody was like, Russia, what are you thinking here? And they're like, that's fine.
Spoiler alert for next week's article, which is, they all came back to Earth because of debris.
So there's like an engineer somewhere, but this time in Russia who's just like,
It's the same high-pitched screech in any language.
But the weird, I mean, you know who has to feel really betrayed by this is the Russians on the space station.
yeah.
Bro, you could have given us a phone call or something. Plus,
An email.
like the orbital distance, I guess they had to shoot the satellite that they didn't like, right? Like the
Right.
useless satellite.
It was falling to Earth anyway.
They could have waited a little bit longer and let
Something.
it get further down.
Yeah.
So this was Putin was like, I don't want to hear your excuses. Just do it.
Yeah.
Shoot it down now.
We got to test this. I'm going to take this to the next level.
Do you know that the Chinese have hypersonic missiles? Listen, we got to get something. We need something. And our final story is really, I expected this to happen sooner in the world that we're living in for the past 2-3 years. It seems to have like kind of a slow burn, but oh boy, is it burning now.
America is hiring a record number of robots. And of course, they have a picture of Flippy.
The best robot. I don't know. I mean, you got to give it to Spot as best robot, but I think that Flippy is most congenial.
I don't know how much money we got from it, but Flippy was running ads on some of our news. Not last week because we were demonetized, but one of the other ones from a while ago.
That's interesting. You think a lot of potential Flippy buyers watch this? The advertisement was for like franchise owners. It was like, hey, are you a franchise owner for blah blah? We're approved now, so that you can buy Flippy and have it in your restaurant. Nice. So yeah, 37% more robots. That's 29,000 extra robots in the last 6 months. Or no, compared to this time last year.
Not Flippy, but I'm honestly kind of surprised that as a competing Flippy technology, we don't have like 3D printable burgers, like some kind of 3D printing technology that just, because I mean, let's look at a McDonald's burger. It's just not that inspiring. You could 3D print that and then just fry it and call it a day.
But I think that would be more work than just
assembling
smashing it
parts,
into a disc. Yeah. If you wanted to do, like burgers that were not fun shapes, but they're going to be inside a bun. I'm sure you've seen the pancake printers.
Yeah.
Those are interesting. Some of them are doing color now too. you put food dye in the different chambers, and then it has like 4 colors to print with.
I'm sure they've got something like that at Disney, the most magical place on earth.
Yeah, for sure. I bet they got some Flippy style stuff at Disney too.
Yeah.
How great would it be if they repurposed the Hall of Presidents to serve you food?
George Washington burgers are the best burgers ever.
You know who's the worst? Taft.
Every burger comes with a bite out of it.
The man can't cook. All right, tomorrow we got business, and I forget what the other one is, but it's a lot of business.
There's a lot of business.
Just a couple long sections this week.
So some of you might be driving Wednesday.
Yeah, we're good. We're good car material. Join us on Patreon or Floatplane. You can get this in MP3 format on Patreon. Woo!
Bye.